Hi guys, welcome back, and this time around I'm bringing you the Elysian Pilgrim. Elysian is known for having some really mega buck IEMs. So when I heard from HIFIGO that something was coming out which was going to be accessible for the masses, the Pilgrim in this particular case, I was quite excited to say the least. And obviously I want to thank HIFIGO for having given me this opportunity to review the Pilgrim. It is an IEM which costs $399, so it's centered right in this price bracket where you have a number of other IEMs which are also very, very good. But it was interesting to see how, and I'm sure to a certain extent, HIFIGO also had an influence on that, how they managed to collaborate in a positive manner with Elysian in order to bring the magic that Elysian has in its higher priced IEMs, which unfortunately I haven't heard, but I will try and I will endeavor to see if I can get my hands on one of these days. So they tried to bring us the magic of the bigger, more expensive brothers into the Pilgrim. The Pilgrim is a 1+3, so it's got a single DD 9.2mm coupled with 3 Sonian BAs, and what they've done, I think honestly is pretty impressive, especially when I in a while talk and compare it to a certain extent to some of the other IEMs which are here. Anyway, this is the box, very nice, very classy. You open it up, I'm just going to take you through it very quickly, there's no real point. Greeted out with this tray which has the actual IEMs in it. Oops, this thing, there we go. So there's a little sponge here which holds the IEMs. Then there's this other second little box which brings the usual hardware in terms of, so that's the little box I was telling you about that is over there, which has the IEMs. This box has a little bit of paperwork, warranty card, a cleaning cloth, so nothing really too overboard. And then on the bottom there's the carrying case, which is this, oh my god, this particular carrying case here. It's a carrying case very similar to something that I've seen already from BGVP, for example. And inside, obviously there was the cable, and there's these spin fit tips, which I'm not going to say are not good. They are good. I'm sure that they did their work when they were testing which tips would be the best performing ones for the Pilgrim. But ultimately I also did my own little bit of tip rolling, and I discovered that there were 2 other tips, at least for me, my ears, my music, that worked better. Anyway, nice case. Let's just leave it over here. The cable is a nice cable. A little bit too tight on the ear hook side. It's got Pentagon connection, and the shells are absolutely beautiful shells. They've got a nice weight to them, all alloy. It looks like it's been machined. The faceplate is also has had some machining done to it. It just looks the part, and as you can see, the tips that I'm using are the Venus velvet tips. The Venus velvet tips and the PENON liqueur tips were 2 tips that I tried among a few others that really gave me some impressive results. And in a few minutes, when I actually show you the graphs, you'll see what I mean. I was really impressed, to say the least. I was really and truly impressed. Anyway, the fit is fine. The only issue, like I mentioned, is just this ear hook that is a little bit too tight. I will ultimately just remove this actual plastic that does give the shape to the cable. I think that's the biggest problem here. But other than that, it fits fine. No issues. It isolates very nicely with the velvet tips. The performance that I'm getting is, for me at least, stunning. I've got nothing to say. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, there's really not much more I can say. So it's solidly built, nice, beautiful shell. It's got a good set of accessories, not only the cable but the tips. Nice case. For $399 asking price, yeah, I think it's within reason. It's not overboard or anything which doesn't make sense. Anyway, jumping into the sound, which is what we want to know, and again, I'm not here to talk and say that this is better than that or better than. I just want to position the Pilgrim, which is a philosophy that I've tried to adopt over the last couple of months with my reviews, because IEMs already, the majority for the most part, are already good, And to sit here all the time and say, oh no, this is better than that, you must sell what you have or get rid of what you have and now get this one. I don't think that's a very ethical thing for me to do from my side. So I took a few IEMs here to, like I said, position the Pilgrim. I've got the Studio 4 up top there from Soft Ears. That's around $440. I've got the EPZ 530, about the 470 bracket. Also all BA. I've got I've then got the Butastur from Night Oblivion. That's $600. A little bit more expensive than the Pilgrim, but the idea is to position the Pilgrim for you to get an idea. And on that corner there on the top, I've got the Transhuman Halo. That's $1,200, so that's the most expensive IEM of all of them. In the second row, I've got the Elysian Acoustic That's about $290. I've got here the full Performer 8, about $340. The Cadenza 4 from LITZ, that's about $240, $250 as well. I've got here an IEM which I believe has been discontinued, which is the Vulkan from Dongle. And then in the front, I've got the Cincotres from Zigat, the Hype 4 from The Audio, and obviously the Pilgrim. So, in terms of source, I basically did all of my listening with the Q15, and the reason why I'm maybe a little bit late in doing the review compared to other reviewers is because I really wanted to, give a solid listen to the Pilgrim, not just do a quick 30-minute listen and take away already some conclusions and decide and this and that. No, I wanted to take my time listening to it and so on and so forth. Coupled to that, I was also sick, so it obviously just delayed things a little bit. But anyway, jumping into the sound. 1+3, okay, first of all. Excuse me. So when we talk 1+3, you are expecting certain limitations, and so limitations maybe perhaps in the overall technicalities that can be offered, the overall balance of things. And the interesting thing here is because of the way that they've been able to tune the Pilgrim and obviously the house sound, you can see a little bit of that house sound here. It is actually quite surprising that at least I found it surprising that I was getting this performance from so few number of drivers, and to a certain extent, that just goes to prove what sometimes we talk about, which is, drivers or driver count is important and it isn't important. It can sometimes be important if the drivers being used are not high quality drivers, but when you're using high quality drivers, you can do or obtain the results you want to obtain without having to go into 10, 15, 20 drivers like I've seen some IEMs have. Okay, so bass, sub-bass focused. It's got a nice, it's kind of an in-between between a tuck and a glide, because it comes down very quickly, so it doesn't emphasize the mid bass. The emphasis here is on the sub bass, and the way that it does sub bass is honestly phenomenal. Then goes into the Pnna gain. It's maybe a little bit earlier than usual, just around the 1K, just before 1K it starts rising, but it peaks at around 2 point something, 2.8 roughly, give or take, and then it's got a dip. It rises once again, giving a little bit of energy, about 5K, and then it dips again, and that's it. With the SpinFit tips that initially I used and tested, I found that 5K peak was a little bit prominent, and excuse me, being a frequency that I sometimes can be a little bit sensitive to, I was feeling it. So that's what led me to try other tips out. And with both the Venus and the liqueur tips, I was able to control that 5K peak and make things smoother, make things a little bit more balanced out in that area of the mids, upper mids, and treble. So bass, a really good sub bass focus. It's got all the energy to give, and it was interesting because I actually went and ended up listening to genres that I hadn't heard for a long time. I ended up listening to a lot of like the reggae. Slowly from Mortem, Love Overdue from Egyptian. Let me see another one, Free Up from Busy Signal. it shines. That's where the Pilgrim for me was shining, because that sub bass gives those songs the energy, the engagement, the you know, the it captures you, it captivates you with those kind of songs. That's not to say that songs which are vocal centric or more vocal focused won't sound good. They will, but there are other IEMs that are more capable in that aspect here in this group. So it is, I would say, a fun tune where the emphasis has been placed in giving you an old school type of sound, but it's an old school type of sound that is also capable to a certain extent when it comes to the mids and the upper mids and the treble. Again, I repeat, especially maybe the upper mids are not where it will be at its best, and there are occasions where you will get a lot of detail, and there are occasions where you will notice that the detail is a little bit it's not lacking, it's just more relaxed, more subdued, especially when you compare it to other IEMs here, which are very capable in that mids, upper mids and treble area. So just rewinding back a little bit because I got carried away. Bass is, honestly very good. I mean, that's for me is the start of the show. Mids, the lower mids to let's say that point of transition to the upper mids, again, in my opinion, are perfectly executed. And then that upper mids area there is the area where you can, like I said, find this a little bit of fluctuation between it really sounding good with certain songs and then sounding average with others. So like, for example, for me to give you an example of that, if I listen to something like, for example, let me see here, It Feels Like Rain from Aaron Neville, it sounds okay. But for example, if I listen to that same song and I'm listening to it on the Performer 8, I will definitely perform it on the Performer 8. If I listen to it on the 530, I will definitely prefer it on the 530. It's not that it doesn't do it well here, it does it well, but these two, for example, they just do it that little extra better. They just shine a little bit better. On the opposite end of the scale, if I'm now going into, for example, Ocean Breeze from Tim Bowman, this does it better than it does on the Performer 8. This does it, I wouldn't say better, but it does it equally as good as the 530, but in a different style. So we have this variability here. I Can Breathe from her as well, the same situation. Very nice, it does it really well, the Pilgrim, no issues there. But for example, if I listen to I Can Breathe, if I listen to it on the Butastur, phenomenal. It's something else. You really have to hear it to be able to understand what I'm talking about here. But overall, and not wanting to drag this on, the reality is this: in terms of the whole frequency range, it's been very well executed. There's like I said, definite signs of the Elysian house sound there, done and adapted to the price point that we are at, and done and adapted to the fact that we only have 4 drivers to do all of this. But because of the selection of the drivers was a good selection, they are able to really get away with a lot of things. There's no, at least in my ears, and after choosing the tips carefully, I didn't find that there was any unnecessary there was any amount of sibilance or aggressiveness in specific points of the upper mids and treble. I didn't find it to be fatiguing or anything of the sort. It's not fatiguing to my ears, at least it's not fatiguing, which is something that I heard some people were saying that maybe it was a little bit over energetic, and maybe for some of you it will be. One thing is for sure, and this I can guarantee you, you really have to make sure that you insert the IEM deep, because if you don't get the bass that this is capable of doing, if you don't feel that engaging vibe straight away from the first listen, then you know straight away that you haven't selected your tip properly and you haven't inserted it deep enough. Which, I mean, I'm not saying anything new. We already know that in the way that the IEM fits in your ear will make or break it. That's the reality. I mean, one case that comes to mind straight away is the oxygen, the tension. How many people were not able to get the IEM to fit properly, and as a result were not impressed by the sound of it, while others, like myself, are able to get it to fit properly and sounds fantastic. Another IEM that also suffered from this issue was the Blonde, the BL03. If you weren't able, and due to the fact that the nozzle was actually very short, if you're able to get it to sit nice and deep, it sounded amazing. If you're not, it's just gonna sound a little bit okay, whatever. Anyway, giving you a quick rundown now through the IEMs that I have here. With the BA sets at the top there, I mean, to say one is better, one is worse, it's not entirely the best way to go about it, I think. When I compare it to the soft tiers, the Studio 4, yes, if I'm talking about vocals and if I'm talking about technical capabilities, this will be a better IEM. But then if I'm talking about, bass performance, not only in terms of the timbre and the tonality, but the amount of bass and the engagement that is present of that bass for certain songs, then the Pilgrim is the winner. So this year, these are side grades to each other. It depends. Excuse me. If you are a person that likes the more vocal centric sound reproduction, that likes the details, then the Studio 4 will be the option. If you're not a person that appreciates bass or likes bass, the Pilgrim will maybe be just too much for you. So I would say that these will be two good complements. If you like both things, these are two definitely good complements for each other. Compared to the 530, and the 530 from EPZ is actually one of my favorite IEMs out of all the IEMs that I own. And why? Because it's an understated IEM. Very I know that some people did find it to be a little bit over energetic and a little bit too strong, or maybe a little bit too colored in the upper mids and the treble. And I think that the main reason for that was probably the fact that they were not getting the ideal fit on the one hand, and they were not using the proper source, in the sense that, for example, with the Q15, and the reality is this, the Q15 not only does it have an AKM DEC chip inside, which conveys already a more warmer tonality usually to sound, but I think the whole way that it's been engineered, it just makes, at least I haven't found up to now, an IEM that it didn't sound good on. While and that's the 530 is one example of that, because, for example, if I take the 530 and I hook it up to something which has an ESS DEC chip, and, for example, if I hook it up to the M15, which is a phenomenal little dongle, it sounds colder, it sounds a little bit more fatiguing in the long run because of that emphasis that's given to the higher frequencies. While with the Q15, it just sounds absolutely amazing. And if I want to, because I did do that, if I want to give you guys another cheaper alternative where you can get, I think, the best performance out of the 530, that will be the Snowy Night from a Fool. It just sounds really good with Snowy Night. It sounds really good as well with the TP50. Those two in particular sounded really, really well, and they're not going to break the bank, let's put it that way. So the 530 here compared to the Pilgrim, I would say that it's got a lot of the 530's ability. The 530's got a lot of the Pilgrim's ability to be engaging and fun in the bass, because it's been tuned in that manner. Fair enough, it doesn't ultimately have the same sub bass, let's say, impact or that ability to, let's say, move air, because it's a BA set, but it compensates that by giving a very quick, dynamic, powerful bass. It's honestly, it is very good. Where the 530 will shine over the Pilgrim is in its technicalities. That amount of extra energy that it's got up top just makes it sound really, really detailed. And again, it will be very much an individual thing. It will, maybe for some of you it will be a deal breaker because it's too much and you think it's being colored and it's not being balanced. To others, it will be maybe like it is for me. Fantastic. The Butastur and the Halo, I'm going to talk about them at the same time, because obviously the price difference there is between them and well, not so much the Butastur, because that's about $600, so it's roughly $200 more than that. It's 50% more expensive. But the Halo, it's $1,200, so you can buy 3 Pilgrims for the price of the Halo. And it's evident in both of them that in terms of their technical capabilities, so mids, upper mids, and treble, how they are resolving all the less twinklies and sparklies, those two are more detailed. Those two are more capable. again, not necessarily better, because it depends what ultimately you pretend. But now, one thing is for sure: you listen to the Butastur or you listen to the Hello, and that aspect of things cannot be denied. They are very, very resolving sets, very capable technically wise. But the impressive thing for me, at least, is that although they are so impressive, and they are both, well, that's full BA, that's all BA, and that's BA and ESTs, the way that they've tuned all the drivers gives them a very nice tonality, a tonality that can be sometimes even mistaken for, hey, maybe there's a small DD inside, That's how well they've been tuned. I've always thought that. I know some people don't exactly agree with it, but I've always thought that the Butastur and the Halo have got a very nicely executed the BA bass. Very nice. Well, I mean, same thing like the 530, by the way. But on the 530, you will get more that notion that it's a BA that's there, while on the Butastur and on the Halo, you don't. So to say that they are better, it's not necessarily better. They are more detailed, okay? And the reason why I decided to ultimately put it here was because I was hearing some people mention that this was a very resolving, very detailed set, and yes, it is, but it doesn't have detail on the level of those two. No, it doesn't. Second row, yeah, compared with the Okavango, the biggest difference that you will notice straight away is that the Okavango, however nice of a set it is, I mean, it's a 1+6, it's priced at about close to $300, $289 if I'm mistaken. However nicely been executed it has been done, however, polished and really good sounding of a set that it is. The thing that you notice between the two of them that's very evident is that this sounds rougher. It doesn't sound, although it's got more BAs, it doesn't sound as polished as the Pilgrim sounds. Yes, you can argue that lack of polish is only noticeable at higher volumes. That is true. But even at lower volumes, I felt that always sounded just, you could notice a little bit more their BA timbre. While over here, the fact that maybe they've used Sonian BAs, I don't know, and maybe the way that they've obviously tuned it, it just sounds more polished. That, you don't notice that BA timbre, that tonality. You get the goodness of BAs and in terms of their speed and their ability to be resolving, but you don't notice that BA timbre as much as you do on the Okavango. And again, the Okavango has been tuned to have a lot more mid-bass presence as opposed to sub-bass. So you notice straight away that area there is also more noticeable, which is the one that I personally prefer the most. If I have to be honest, I prefer more the Pilgrim. I mean, it's perhaps a little bit unfair because they have been tuned in two very different manners, but I do prefer the Pilgrim slightly over the Okavango because, especially in the bass, I can deal with that, let's say, lack of polish in terms of the BAs, but I just like very much the way that the bass on the Pilgrim is done, as I do, for example, on the Cincotres, and as I do as well on the Hype 4. Okay, so again, there's no winner or loser yet. They just, like I said, they're different, all right, compared to the Performer 8. The Performer 8 in terms of bass stands no chance. It's got a nice quality bass, that's undeniable, but it doesn't have the energy of the bass of the Pilgrim. And where the Performer 8 then ultimately will, edge out the Pilgrim here and there is in the way that the mids come across. And that's a factor that is inevitable, not only because you don't have the same sort of bass there as you do here, but you've got a few more drivers. It's a 1+7. And they've been very well tuned, very well, very coherently matched. And so, yes, the mids, the upper mids, the overall technicalities, they do edge out the Pilgrim slightly. Is it a bloodbath? No, it's not a bloodbath, but it does edge it out slightly. Compared to the Cadenza 4, which is priced, like I said, around $240. I was actually quite impressed how similar the graphs are. Obviously, then when you start listening to it, you notice that there are differences. The first difference is that the bass there is not the same level as the bass on the Pilgrim. The bass on the Pilgrim is significantly more, let's say, girthy, more present, more full. Okay. And again, we have the same situation as we have with the Performer 8. That then means that in terms of the mids and the upper mid, you have just that little extra amount of detail, that just a little extra amount of technical capability that the Pilgrim doesn't have. Again, the differences are minimal. That's one thing I want to make perfectly clear here. The differences are minimal. It's not huge differences, and these differences, excuse me, are based on my library and what I listen to. Perhaps with your library, your ear anatomy, the way that IEM fits in your ears, you won't agree with what I'm saying, but that's how I perceived it. Compared to the Duno, the Vulkan, I've always liked the Vulkan. I've always thought that the Vulkan was a very nicely done set. It didn't get maybe as much love as it should have gotten, but the Vulkan is just it's no match for the Pilgrim. And when you consider that the Vulkan was costing more or less the same amount of money as the Pilgrim now costs, it's not that it's a bloodbath. It's not that the Pilgrim destroys it, no, but the Pilgrim is a more mature, more properly done IEM than the Vulkan. The Vulkan's biggest flaw, I think, is not really in the bass. It's not really in the ultimate extension at the top end. It's more in the way that the mids and upper mids are done. They've been perhaps too laid back, too subdued, and it just sounds a little bit on the darker side. And so that means that sometimes certain vocals, especially females, lack the energy that they would require. Then then oh my god, sorry, my apologies. That then brings us here to the final two, the Cincotres and the Hype 4. And again, an interesting thing, because when I did the review for the Hype 4, I listened to the Dos Cinco and the Cincotres, and I came to the realization that the Dos Cinco was definitely more similar to the Hype 4. And then, a curious thing happened. When listening now and comparing it with the Pilgrim, I found that although the Dos Cinco is more similar to the Hype 4, the Dos Cinco was more different in terms of its overall presentation than the Cincotres. So this here actually was more similar to the Pilgrim in its presentation. It's got, I wouldn't say more bass than the Pilgrim. I would say that the Cincotres has got what can be perceived as a fuller bass, because, well, it's got two DDs apparently in an ISO or quasi-isobaric configuration, the same thing like the Hype, and I make the words that I'm saying about the bass for the Cincotres the same as on the Hype 4. That you feel that the bass is a little bit more present, more there, but it doesn't have the same sort of speed and quality overall that the Pilgrim's bass has. So although the Pilgrim might have just maybe a little bit less energy overall, in terms of the quality, the Pilgrim's bass for me is better than the bass of the Cincotres and of the Hype 4. Again, let me just repeat this and make that perfectly clear. It's better for me and for what I listen to. When I was listening, for example, to the reggae songs that I was listening to, or even stuff like, for example, let me see here, Sweet 16 by Billy Idol. I just liked the presentation of the Pilgrim just ever slightly more than the Cincotres, and I would say with that particular song, the Pilgrim and the Hype 4 were very, very similar. I think the Hype 4 edges out the Pilgrim is in the fact that it has just a little bit extra more detail up top, a little bit more energy in the upper mids to treble, and the extension past 10k as well. It seems to have a little bit more information there, and that little bit extra information that it has there then conveys itself into having maybe just a slightly larger soundstage in occasions, and just maybe a little bit better imaging capability. But to be perfectly clear, and like I've been, I think, for the majority of what I've said up to now, the differences here are not big. They are not huge differences. Okay, there are differences which are I perceive them because of the music that, and I know that, and I know this music, and I've listened to these songs quite a few times, so I can pick up on them. But there are not huge differences. All right. Now, just to finalize and kind of say what makes sense in terms of overall value and so on and so forth. Well, I mean, the Halo, obviously we're talking at a over $1,000 IEM here. Does its performance justify its price? You can say yes, but does it mean that it plays 3 times more than the Pilgrim? No, it doesn't play 3 times as more than the Pilgrim. It's got more details, it's got more clarity up top, yes, more technical capability, more resolving, more information. That's without a question. I mean, it's undeniable. I mean, we've got ESTs there, and that makes a difference. But you know, it's not even something which is fair for me to perhaps put into this whole equation here. As for the Butastur, I would say that the Butastur is an interesting upgrade to the Pilgrim. I would say that because it's capable of giving a bass which is ultimately not the Pilgrim's bass. That's a reality. But it gives a very, very good bass, and I mean that's down as well to using some Sonions on the BA in there, on the BAs for the bass. So, and you know, if you've been lucky enough to have listened to a lot of IEMs and listened to IEMs that use Sonions and then Knolls and obviously there's different qualities, and you will ultimately understand when I say that you can pick up the difference when it's a Sonion BA doing the bass and if it's been well tuned, and it's been well tuned. So I would say that's an interesting upgrade for the Pilgrim compared to the Studio 4. You know, however much I like it, there are side grades as I mentioned earlier. As for the 530, I would say the 530 is very much the same situation as the the Butastur, although I wouldn't say that's an upgrade, but that's a very solid IEM to have as well as a side grade to the Pilgrim. The 530 honestly really does perform way above what you would expect. Okay, Okavango, I would take the Pilgrim over the Okavango. I mean, I like the Okavango. I think the Okavango is very well done IEM, well built. Well, I mean, sounds fantastic. But it's ultimately what makes me choose one over the other is that this is just more polished. It's not as rough as that compared to the former 8. Better execution in terms of the mids and so on, but you know, the engagement factor, the engagement side of things, I think most people will probably prefer this. The price difference here is minimal, so I mean, I think it will be dependent on what you're wanting. Okay, that's it. Compared to the Cadenza, to the Cadenza 4, yes, there is a price difference of about $150. I would say that these are again, if you have a Cadenza 4. I think this will be an interesting upgrade, and I say this why, because I heard a lot of people say that they were missing a little bit more bass. They wanted a little bit more bass there, and the fact that the mids here shine the way they shine is because the bass is not as present or as prominent as maybe a lot would like. So I would say that this is an interesting upgrade if you have a Cadenza going to the Pilgrim. Okay, the Vulkan, as I said, it's no match for the Pilgrim. I mean, it sounds good, it plays well, but you know, it's no match. Besides the fact that it's again not available anymore. And then finally, compared with the Cincotres and the Hype 4, I would say that the Cincotres, what it has going for it is the fact that it costs $150 less, and I would say that they are again. The Pilgrim is a solid upgrade from the Cincotres. That's my opinion. I'm not expecting people to agree with me wholeheartedly, but I think it would be a solid upgrade. There's just more polish overall in terms of the sound than there is here. It's just more detailed. However non-detail orientated that the Pilgrim is, in my opinion, it's a more complete IEM in the long run. And as for the Hype 4, I would say the Hype 4 is again an IEM that falls within the same spectrum as the 530 and you know 530 and maybe as well the Performer 8. It is a viable alternative. It's an IEM that has a very similar type of sound. The biggest difference I would say is that on, you notice that on certain occasions, in terms of the details and the technical capabilities, that is this slightly just slightly more capable, let's put it that way. In terms of its technical capabilities, on the Pilgrim, what is the one that stands out to me, in my opinion? Timbre and the tonality. That's what seduced me. And it's the same thing that happens as well with the Hype 4. You listen to the Hype 4, and it's just got this very nice sound, and it's very easy to like, and it captivates. I mentioned that on my review, and this as well is the same situation. You put it into your ears, and you put it in properly, and you really make sure that you've got a nice deep fit and it's sealed, and the Pilgrim will just honestly seduce you. It will. It's impossible for you to listen to it, I think, and to go away saying, no, I didn't enjoy it. There will probably be people that will say that, but I think for the majority, they will be very impressed. And I guess that's it, guys. I mean, I think congratulations to Elysian. Congratulations to them for the fact of them being able to offer us such a high quality product at a price which I mean, would be. I wasn't expecting it. Let's put it that way. I actually thought, before knowing the price that it was going to be, I actually thought it was going to be way more expensive. So I am happy that HIFIGO was able to keep things down to this sensible value. And congratulations as well to HIFIGO for having making this a possibility to occur. And that's that, guys. I mean, I think I've basically positioned the Pilgrim very well. I'll show you another graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for the Elysian Pilgrim. Let me actually start off with the graph that is the graph for the Elysian using the spin fit tips. And as you can see, using the spin fit tips, it's got that peak there at 5K being prominent, at least measuring my rig and with my unit, it was quite prominent. As I mentioned, you have this bass, which is kind of an in-between between a tuck and a glide, because it's not that usual tuck that's very prominent. It's a very smoothed out tuck. Flat by 200, the mids very flat. There's no bleeding, there's no nothing, and you notice that the vocals are clean and it's very detailed. There's no muddiness, no nothing with regards to that. And then the Pnna gain starts a little bit early, just before 1K. I mean, nothing that's really too significant. It's not too forward or anything of the sort. Peaks at about 2.8, 2.7, 2.8K. Then there's a dip there, and then that rise, and then that dip again, and some extension past 10K. So that led me to try out some different tips. I tried out the liqueurs from PENON, and you can see that peak there straight away came down, and it changed slightly here the profile in a manner which I found made it just a little bit more capable in terms of soundstage. And then I tried the Velvets, and the same situation. It basically did away with the peak, so the peak was done. And compared to the liqueurs, I mean, it's basically the same thing. I just overall just preferred the way that the Velvets were fitting in my ear. So it was with the Velvets that I did the majority of the listening and the comparisons that I did. Now, compared then to the IEMs that we have here. Let's get here the Duno, the Vulkan out of the way. This is the Duno. Graphically, you say, okay, but it seems to have a similar style of bass. No, the bass is not the same. It is a good bass, it is, I'm not going to deny. But then the biggest issue here is in this transition between the mids and the upper mids, as I was mentioning. It's been too subdued, so it sounds too laid back. It just makes things but overly warm. And then it's got this crazy peak here at about 7K, which honestly it didn't really bug me, or didn't bother me. And I think that's down to the fact that we have this area being very subdued, and also that you got, I mean, the bass is decent, but it's not a Pilgrim bass, let's put it that way. Okay, so that's the Vulkan out of the way. Let's get the other ones in terms of the BAs. Let's get those all. Let's get the Okavango out of the way. So let's take away the Vulkan so we don't confuse it. We take away that. We take away that. So let's do the Okavango now. This is the Okavango. Oh, by the way, I've been everything has been normalized at 1K. The Okavango, like I mentioned, mid bass is definitely more prominent. But then the fact that, okay, fair enough, you could say it's got the tuning switches, you could use it. And I tried it, you know, the tuning switch, it wasn't giving me that little extra boost here on the higher frequencies. But it just made it sound, it wasn't so much in this part of the mids and the upper mids that I was noticing that lack of polish. It was more up top that extra energy that was there was making it sound just a little bit rough around the edges. And if I then switched off that extra boost of the treble, it then made it sound overly, I wouldn't say boomy, but overly darkened by the fact that you had so much more mid bass. So overall, again, it's a nice tuning. It plays well. I enjoyed it. I don't have anything against the Okavango. I think it's a really really nice IEM, but it's not a product which is as polished as the Pilgrim. Okay, so that's the Okavango out of the way. Performer 8. As I mentioned, the Performer 8 doesn't have the same sort of bass that the Pilgrim has. I mean, I normalized it at 1K. Even if I normalize it at 500, it will be basically the same thing. Now, in terms of the mids and the balance that those mids have to the bass, because I mean, this is it's an 8mm driver, so it's a slightly smaller driver. The Performer 8 is just better. And then up top as well, the Performer 8 just has a better, more airy feeling of soundstage, and it's just, you know, more capable in terms of its overall technicalities. Is it a bloodbath over the Pilgrim? No, it's not. It's just way it's been tuned. So it's not one is better, one is worse. It's two IEMs which are very capable and will ultimately be decided what you want will be the way to go here. Okay, so that's the Performer 8 out of the way. Compared to the Halo, the Tansio Mirai, just so that you guys can understand what I was saying. Obviously, being a BA, we have this massive amount of energy here, but it doesn't convey to the reality when you listen to technically the Halo. And you know, even though it's got all this up and down and so on and so forth, forget it. When you listen to it, you will be impressed. If you have the opportunity to listen to the Tansio Mirai, the Halo, I am sure that you will be impressed, because it is a really capable IEM. So that's the Halo out of the way. Compared to the Night Oblivion. Night Oblivion number 5. There we go. Compared to the Night Oblivion. Like I mentioned, it's a solid, if you have a Pilgrim, going to the Night Oblivion is a solid upgrade. It is. It offers very much the same sort of vibe in terms of the bass, by the way that it's been executed. You notice that it's just, obviously, one is BA, one is DD, but the difference isn't as huge and as monumental as you would think. If I have to make a quick comparison with the Halo, I prefer the bass on the Butastur as opposed to the bass on the Halo. And then the mids and the upper mids and very well done on the Butastur. There's plenty of detail, loads of detail. Any even minor chance of any aggressiveness or anything of the sort is counteracted by the fact that you've got a really nicely done bass execution, and then technically super capable. I mean, you can't complain in terms of its technical capabilities. So that's the Night Oblivion. We'll take it out as well, so there's no more confusion here. Compared to the EPZ 530, EPZ 530, you would think, oh, okay, but it's got this big bump here again. It's going to be no. It's not as noticeable as you would think. It doesn't bleed or bloat the mids in any way. And then the energy that it has up here in terms of the mids, upper mids, and treble, if you look carefully, it's actually got the same sort of rise, dip, rise again, and dip. Very similar to the Pilgrim, and that's why I said this is a solid side grade. It's a solid IEM to have, just for the simple fact that it has that little extra amount of detail that maybe you might be lacking. One is not better than the other. That, you know, they are just two very well approaches to play music. That's the way I look at it. Okay, so that's the 530. Studio 4. Okay, Studio 4. no comparison in terms of the bass. Yes, the quality of the bass is there on the Studio 4, no denying, but very quickly once you start pushing the volume, you notice that it doesn't just keep, it just doesn't keep up. It's got that same execution, sub bass focus with a really quick and early transition into the bass, into the low, in the lower mids to make it flat and not bleed. Really well executed. The Pnna gain are really nicely done. Peaks at about 3K and then slowly drops off. Kind of a harmony style tune. I mean, it plays fantastic, the Studio 4. Please don't think it doesn't. I mean, for the longest time, I used to, and I was one of the few people that said that the Studio 4 was not as capable as the RSV, which is its bigger and more expensive brother. But after having listened to it now for a lot more times and compared it to the RSV, I have to say that I have to agree with what some people were saying, that the Studio 4 is perhaps a better IEM because it's giving us the performance of the RSV. I would say 95% of the performance of the RSV at $300 less. So that's significant. But ultimately, talking about Studio 4 and Pilgrim, I would say the Pilgrim is just slightly edging out the Studio to make sense, being the IEM to go for. Okay, so that's Studio 4 out of the way. Cadenza, I believe I mentioned the Cadenza. Well, if I didn't, I'll just mention it again. That's the Cadenza. Again, no, I didn't mention the Cadenza. Same sort of bass, execution of the bass and everything. Same sort of, to a certain extent, way of the mids and upper mids and treble are being done, but more detail, and the bass is no way it's not as significant as the bass of the Pilgrim, and that's why I was saying earlier that if you have a Cadenza 4, the Pilgrim is a solid upgrade, because it's going to give you then that bass energy that you want, coupled to maybe a slightly subdued upper mid presentation. It will give you an overall balance which is more pleasing, especially when you start pushing the volume. Yes, on the other side, ultimately the Cadenza 4 does have slightly better capabilities when it comes to the technical aspect of things. It's just that balance that you have to put on the weighing scale. Okay, so that's the Cadenza out of the way as well. The 530 we've talked about, the Studio 4 we've talked about, and that leaves us then with the Cincotres and the Hype 4. The Cincotres first. There we go. The Cincotres, I think what maybe ultimately makes me prefer the Pilgrim is the fact that because the Cincotres has got a little bit more mid bass, okay, although it tucks in early as well and so on, and it's got this kind of recession here in terms of the mids to upper mids transition point here. It sounds nice and full and lush in the bass, but it just lacks a little bit of that extra little bit of detail that by no means the Pilgrim is a beast in that aspect from my perspective, but it just lacks a little bit extra more detail there, which okay, the Pilgrim does give us. Oops, sorry, there we go. The Pilgrim does give it to us, and just makes, I think, the overall the Pilgrim be the better choice compared with the Dos Cinco, which I didn't talk about, but I would say that very much the same applies. The Dos Cinco just sounds a little bit more maybe rough around the edges as compared to the Cincotres. I just feel that the Cincotres maybe is the one that makes the most sense in terms of the overall sound signature compared to the Pilgrim. And then finally, oops, I don't need this notification here spoiling things for us. And then finally here, the Hype 4. In terms of that bass, yes, you notice there's a little extra more energy, but it's not an energy, or the difference that exists is not as significant as what the graph might make you believe. And then the fact that they've given it just that little extra amount of energy here, it just balances both ends very nicely. I mentioned that on my review of the Hype 4. The Hype 4, what impressed me was how it maintained itself, always very capable. It scaled very well. And when I compare it to the Pilgrim, it's just that little extra amount of energy that I have here on the upper mids and the treble that makes it shine just ever so slightly more than the Pilgrim on certain occasions. It's not a huge difference, no, it isn't, but it just makes it shine. It's more here that I hear a difference than necessarily here in the bass. And then the Hype 4 as well, on certain occasions as well, technically, it's just ever so slightly more efficient, more proficient. If you wanna say that. And there you have it, guys. I know this has been a really long review, but I mean, obviously I compared it with a whole bunch of IEMs, and I wanted to convey a very solid opinion about the Pilgrim. I think it's a really well executed IEM. I'm not going to tell you to run out and go buy a Pilgrim now. No, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that if you are in the market and if you're wanting an IEM which, you know, is highly capable and it's been very well executed, definitely the Pilgrim is an option. And with the IEMs that I selected here, I think I've positioned it well enough for you guys to make a more informed decision. All right, as always, like and subscribe. I'm not gonna say it, I'm not gonna be begging here, but you know, make sure you follow me, you talk about me to other people. I want to make my channel grow. I want my channel to grow, people. I want it to grow. I want more people to know what I'm doing for the community. So any help that I can get from all of you will be most welcomed. Okay, you take care now. Bye bye.